Thank you for the introduction, and I want also to introduce myself of a daughter with a mom with dementia, and maybe we can talk about something we learned from it ourselves. I'm talking also on behalf of a network of dementia researchers, a European network, and Dawn is also a member of that network, and we are dedicated to do studies in order to improve living with dementia. And my leading question will be, how can social health contribute to a better life with dementia? And it fits very well into the talk of Paul, and we can take some other steps in it. Well, I'm going to talk about how to live together, and I will give you some flavor of basic science theory, which gives hope for an approach that improves living well with dementia. And there is also something on rurality in it, and that's, I think the most important thing in approach of dementia is dignity, and I will tell you something about it. And then I will end practically on how to support people with dementia and their carers. So this is a symbol of how you live together, and there is a very nice theory that states that people move together in a kind of convoy. The theory of Tony Antonucci, and people move together in life. There come people within your convoy, and people leave the convoy, and the most important thing I'm going to talk about is to take good care for your convoy. And why is social health so important? Because that is the topic of my current research. Well, we learned that in order how to live long, and which predict living long, there are several important factors. We know overweight is not so important as doing exercise. It's not as important as quit smoking. But the most important thing in living long and healthy are close relationships. So having friends with whom you share important things in your life. But on the top there was social integration. And that's about how you interact with people during the day. So it's about this. It's about small talk. It's about just talking to people you meet. So walking your dog, talking with a postman. Well, having a good community where you have these opportunities. So what is important in community care is a community with a shop, with some place to meet naturally, and not a new big facility for people who are lonely or other ideas. Well, what is social health? In essence, social health is what the dynamic balance, so a changing balance between what we can do and what we can't do. Is not a personal thing, it's influenced by the environment. So it's the people around us allow us to do something, although they prevent us to do something. So important are social contact. And if you go into more detail, it's about others help us to fulfill our capacities, to do what we in fact can do. They help us or prevent to manage a life with a certain kind of independence. So if you are surrounded by people who are always helping you and taking everything from you, and if you're talking about a nursing home where they cut your bread, while you are perfectly able to cut your bread, you use that potential to cut your bread. And I think that that is bad care. And the other thing, which is quite logical in social health, is the ability to participate in social activities, and therefore things like having a good neighborhood where in a natural way you can meet people is extremely important. Well, we all know that social health is challenged by dementia, especially by the stigma attached to dementia, and that it often changes the social behavior, and that's a sign to go even to go to the doctor. And also when there is challenging behavior, it challenges the social position of the person with dementia. So dementia influences social health, but social health can help to influence the dementia process. And what is attractive about social health? Health is in it, but it's essentially about normal life, and it's about positive things. It's not about what Oliver Sacks calls defectology, but it's about what people can do and to preserve what people can do. It's a connection with normal life, and it has a potential both for prevention of dementia and for living well with dementia and for living better with dementia. So that's why I think it's a very important topic. And so it goes two ways. So you can work a whole life on it. You can, there are conditions that influence the development and structure of social health, and there can be positive conditions and there can be negative conditions, but you can work on it your whole life, and I would strongly advise to start or to continue today. And the other way around, health influences the social support, and both by positive and negative actions. So negative action can really undermine your social health, and you indicated that social isolation and loneliness are among the most devastating influences of dementia. And now I will come to a part which might be a bit difficult to understand, but I decided to continue with it because last night I had a conversation with Agnes on neuroplasticity. So that's a very difficult word, but she was very familiar with it, and it's the sign of hope in dementia. So we will go into that. And this is a beautiful artwork on the brain. So, the hopeful thing, and that's why I'm here, and why a lot of things which happen today can happen today, is that there is this concordance between the pathology, so what's going wrong, the plaques and tangles in the brain, and cognitive impairment. And in between, there is the role of the brain of cognitive reserve. I will come back to that later. First, about the discrepancy. What has been found is that nearly 50% of the people with dementia did not have sufficient pathology to explain their cognitive symptoms, meaning that there were other factors causing their behavior. So maybe the environment was not supportive or was too supportive. And so these people are not using the full potential. They are more disabled than they are on front of their brain pathology. On the other hand, there were people with pathology and they performed perfectly well. So because of this discrepancy between what is wrong in the brain and what you can do, that's where we come in with things as social health and with all our interventions. So there are certain compensatory factors that provide a kind of brain reserve. And this is really very, very important. So you can have a lot of bypasses and other ways to go and use the systems more efficiently. And one powerful thing is cognitive stimulation. And it's the old principle of use it or lose it. And now I come to the difficult thing of neuroplasticity. And what does it mean? So our brain is a very powerful part of our body, and it's in a way it's very flexible. So you can rearrange, in a way you can rearrange your brain and the connections in your brain. And we can do that by learning. And we know from a lot of interventions that people with dementia can still learn. And by learning, you can repair and compensate other parts of the brain that are affected. And now again, so why is social health important? It's a social environment that can help to influence the brain and the brain plasticity. And in contrast to what we knew before, is that it can be sustained in later life. So the stigma of getting a diagnosis and getting the advice to withdraw, that's really horrible. And the worst, so it's not only nasty, but it's not true, because the doctor doesn't know how you are going to develop and does not know what influences there are to support you and to help you. So this is, it might be difficult words, neuroplasticity, but the thing is, the hope is in neuroplasticity and in the flexibility of our brain, and we have to learn how to touch the right button. And this is beautifully summarized by Laura Fratiglioni in the brain reserve hypothesis. Is the ability to tolerate aging, just aging, and also changes in the brain without developing clear symptoms or signs. Because that's also, we also know for sure, it's not the degree of dementia, it's not the pathology, it's not what comes out of fMRI, but it's the symptoms that are important. The symptoms that are important for the person themselves and especially for the environment. And this is where we have to focus on. So again, social networks can modify the neuropathology, and they can cause changes in the brain. And in general, and we are looking for much more specific and better interventions, but we already know that in general a combination of physical, mental and social activities seems to contribute to brain reserve. So this is the brain message, and we are already working on it. We got a huge grant from the Dutch Dementia program called Memorable. We call it Shimmy. And we got this proposal in order to look at social factors and dementia. And our starting point is the brain hypothesis connected with we will connect the brain hypothesis with social health. And the aim is to identify the role of social health in the onset of dementia. So we give a prominent place to social health in the onset of dementia. So we look at everything and social health. So we do not ignore the medical things. We do not ignore MRI or things. For the first time, we integrate it, we combine it, and it's really an adventure also for us as researchers, and also for the funding organization, because they take a risk, but that's what you should do as a good researcher. And at the end, we will come with a kind of interventions or principles for an intervention. And well, today I got already some ideas for it, so that I learn a lot from this as well. And how important it is. So now I come back to us and to daily life. And this is, we have a special issue on social health which is coming out. And one of the articles we learned about that the suffering in dementia is not so much caused by the pathology, but by the response of the environment and being treated as other rather than one of us, being treated as a lesser rather than full or valued member of society. So we try to make a hopeful issue, but what we gave was these social things. So we thought, well, we get a lot of articles on how to support people and how the support is helpful, but this is some of the painful things we learned in issuing something like this. And I started with saying that dignity is the most important thing in dementia, if I have to make a choice. And this is we also have a queen, our beautiful queen, Maxima, before the crowning. And this is dignity, but this is also dignity, is the importance of not being perceived as a burden to others, but as continuing to be useful. And you can't even measure it. So this is a key thing. And one of the things which is really helpful is reciprocity, because people like more to give than to get. So, and reciprocity is the ability to give something in return for receiving, and you can easily give it. So for instance, if people are visiting you, you can show how much you like that people are coming, and this is a way of giving something back. It's also in the very, very little things which are important. And so we made a little hypothesis. We think that if you allow people reciprocity, that enhances their autonomy and their dignity. As simple as that. And very, very difficult. So the last part of my talk will be about how to support people with dementia and their carers. And I come back to social health, and I will give more insight in the dimensions of social health and how you can help, for instance, to stimulate the capacity of people and to use their full potential. One of the things is occupational therapy, to keep people able to make their coffee, to garden, to walk, whatever they want. And in this time, we can benefit from our technologies like this. So here is a GPS system, and in the Netherlands, our flatland, we like cycling a lot. And so with this GPS system, his wife knows where he is, and he has the freedom to go where he wants. So that's it. And then you have these nice devices like mine, so you can. There are a lot of devices in place now, and the iPhone as well. So think about what can be done with all we have in place now, which is new and very, very helpful. Then the second dimension of social health is management to live with some degree of independence. And there are interventions that already proved to be effective in the highest scientific way, goal-oriented cognitive rehabilitation therapy and group cognitive therapy. That was very helpful as well. Cognitive training in general. And what cognitive training often does is cognitive reframing. So you think about something as a disaster, but you can reframe that. You can think, oh, this might not be a disaster, not driving anymore. It can also be a new opportunity, and I can have more social contact by not driving. I can go wherever I want. So these are important things which can be included in a kind of cognitive training and cognitive therapy. And exercise again, and psychomotor therapy. So that's a nice thing. We didn't use this brain reserve theory. We left it. It's in place for many years. And we didn't use it because we were so eager to get quick solutions. But when we put it together, then we also realized that it wasn't worthless. That if now we can include it and we have it in place. We did a lot. And not all were successful, but some were. And also some facilitating engagement and support. And there are not yet studies on it, but they are convincing in itself. For instance, community-based intervention, staff training how to deal with people with dementia. And I really hope they are not going to patronize people with dementia. And for instance, and addressing loneliness, never ever address loneliness as loneliness, because who wants to be lonely? It's a bigger stigma than dementia, and people don't want to know that, and they don't come. So if you want to do an investment in making a center to address loneliness, save your money and think and do a more clever thing. And then there is art and dementia, and there are there comes evidence that it's successful. So, for instance, we go together to a museum, go together to a concert, and have a coffee afterwards, and things like that. And then Dawn will, I'm happy that you will expect much more on meeting centers. Then we can include people with dementia in everything, also advanced care planning. And advanced care planning doesn't mean so quick with everything, but think ahead. What do you want? Now you have a diagnosis. What do you want to do? What are you afraid to miss? And maybe we can compensate for it. So actually, a good diagnostic conversation is really the first step in living well with dementia, and we have beautiful interventions for it, but they are not used. Okay, and shared decision making. People with dementia are very capable of being involved in it, and not only verbally but also non-verbal. And even when they decide, please decide for me, it's important that they are involved. They appreciate to be involved. So these are very hopeful things. And in fact, well, there is a paucity in dementia research. There is no progress regarding medicine, but we made a big jump. And I think that all our research contributed to a paradigm shift. And that from the disaster scenario to a scenario of living well with dementia. Thank you for your attention.